Hello and welcome to this lesson on the lovely old Scottish song Tramps and Hawkers. I've based my version on one I found by Luke Kelly of the Dubliners. We're in the key of G major, so all your Fs are sharpened. It's 3/4, so it's a waltz, 3 beats to the bar. And so therefore all the notes on the G row will have normal heads, all the notes on the D row will have diamond heads. And that is something peculiar to my music only. You won't find that on other people's sheet music. We're playing this tune on this DG Melodeon, so in the key of G major, so mainly the G row, but there are a few notes on the D row. And one of the features of this tune is the fact that we're going to put in quite a few grace notes, little notes just before the main note, and I'll explain that as we do it. At the top you can see a crotchet equals 120, that means 120 beats per minute. That's the kind of tempo that I've set this at, and that's not bad speed to play this at, I think. So that's what 120 beats per minute sounds like, and the bell comes on the first beat of each bar. So get used to that tempo. In the first bar on the stave there you can see a block hanging from the second line down. That is a semi-breve rest, which we use to fill up a bar of rests for any time signature apart from 4/2. So I know this is 3/4, so you might expect a minim rest and a crotchet rest, but that wouldn't be correct. The semi-breve rest is the right one to use. And the left hand is simply G bass, G chord twice, so 1 G bass, 2 G chords, classic pa pattern. And you use that for the first 4 bars of the tune. So you actually don't play anything on the right hand until bar number 2. Now the first thing you can see in bar number 2, it says pos -1, which means here. This is a 4th button start instrument, so the 4th button down on the G row, on the push, is G. If I had my first finger there and my fingers on sequential buttons underneath that, I would call that position H, or the home position. One up from that is position -1, which is where we find ourselves for this bar. You can see a crotchet rest underneath that. I'm not sure what that is. That's a 1 beat rest. That's not a note. I call it an upturned seagull. And that fills up the whole of the first beat. So you actually come in with the right hand finally on beat number 2 of bar number 2. And this is what you do. Now, the main note is G, so finger 2 on the note G, on the push, and the tiny little note, the grace note to the left of that, is a D, so it's actually the button directly above that. So you play the G as your main note, but you just crush that D note in on beat 2. It doesn't really have any value at all, that D note. It's what we call a grace note. And then you just hang on to that button, and on the final quaver of the bar you play the note A, so the same button, and just pull out to get it, or you can repress the button if you like. Let's show you how that works with the chords. Let's play from the beginning of bar 1. Now you notice that you don't play that final note of A in bar 2 until you've played the second G chord. Show you again. Like that, okay? I put a dagger symbol underneath that A just to remind you that you can play that note just by reversing the bellows, going from a push to a pull. It's quite weird when you're converting a vocal performance into an instrumental performance. Obviously the voice, it tends to be a little bit freer than you can be on an instrument. So hopefully that won't notice too much as you play this. Hopefully you'll find this a satisfying thing to play. Now in bar 3 we're going to do another one of these grace notes, but we're going to do it cross row. We're going to play the A on the D row, this button here, which is button 6 on this Melodeon. If you've got a 3rd button start instrument, it'll be button 5. And the second finger is going to play the main note of B on the G row. So they're practically opposite each other, look like that. Slightly staggered. That's what you're looking for. The main note's B and the A is crushed in as you play the G bass. See? Now you may notice if you look carefully, and it is very small I'm afraid, the grace note the A has a diamond head. Just to remind you that it is on the D row, it is that note there. See? And then you're going to stay in position and do another one of the grace notes. That note you just played on the G row, you then play, well, it was a main note just now. Now it's a grace note as you go to the main note D on the button below. So you're going from like that. Let's talk about the counting of the first few bars. The first bar itself is really easy. It's simply 1, 2, 3 as you do your pa pa. The second bar, well, the first beat is a rest. The second beat is this main note of G with a grace note D. So it's 1, 2, 3 and the final note of A on the pull there is on the and count of 3. 1, 2, 3 and because it doesn't really make a lot of sense until you play the next bar, and you're going to have to drop down to position home to do those 2 main notes in bar 3. As you were in position home for this, but you need to drop down south by 1 button to do this. And that note of B, that main note of B in bar 3 is on beat 1, last of beats 1 and 2, 1, 2, 3. So from the beginning, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, like that. Let's put the bass in. Very often bars of 3, 4, 3 beats per bar don't make sense until you play the next bar, and then you need the next bar after that. They don't feel like a complete unit in themselves. I spoke earlier about the flexibility of the voice as opposed to the flexibility of an instrument. Here's one of those kind of vocal phrases that I converted to the Melodeon, and it's a rundown and it looks pretty complicated. I'm talking about bar 4. You're going to play the B that you played at the beginning of bar 3, finger 2 on the push, come over to the A on the D row, finger 3, and then go back to the G row for the note G. You see what you have there is a triplet semi-quaver tied to a quaver, tied to a crotchet, and it's a bit of a nightmare to try and read. So just listen to the timing. And then on beat 3, you simply play that G twice more. So it's oh, come on, ye tramps and tramps. See? So you've got to kind of crush it in, but not too fast. If you look at the bass line on top, the G bass 2 G chords, you can see how the right hand syncs up the left. Okay, let's play those first 4 bars. Pull the bellows out quite a way before you start because you have an awful lot on the push.